In my last video, What It Takes to Live Well, Part 2, I talked about how three axiomatic concepts lead to a conclusion that reason is absolute. And I gave some examples. The most notable one was the example of two dice and how you can never roll 13. And I said, well, I might need to expand on that even further to make it more clear, and I'm going to use an analogy between a flea and an elephant. A flea is a certain animal, and an elephant is a certain animal. Like I said before, existence is identity. To be is to be something. And so what does it mean to be a flea, and what does it mean to be an elephant? We can start asking questions like that. How does life continue, or how is life maintained in those creatures? And with a flea, we can ask, is a flea ever bigger than an elephant? If a flea is never bigger than an elephant, if it is a biophysical impossibility, then we can make a generalization about fleas. Even fleas we've never seen before. That's absolutely certain because of existence being identity. So it turns out fleas, we can look at how they stay alive. They kind of breathe. They breathe differently than other animals. They breathe through pores in their skin, and the oxygen just diffuses directly to the cells inside the flea. They don't have a circulatory system that carries oxygen out to cells that are maybe deep inside. So because of the short distance, because of the small size of a flea, it's okay just to have holes in your skin and have oxygen just passively diffuse inside to the cells. That's a fine way to breathe. But if a flea were as big as an elephant and only had these pores in its skin and relied on this passive diffusion of oxygen, well, oxygen would never make it to the middle of the elephant. Okay, so when you get to be the size of an elephant, you need this circulatory system. You need blood vessels to carry oxygen into the deep recesses of the inside of the body. You can't get there. So a flea could not breathe. The cells of a flea would never receive oxygen if it was the size of an elephant, because of how a flea breathes, the respiration of a flea. So we can know, I said in the last video, there are some things you will never see in your life, and that's one of them is a big flea walking around, the size of an elephant. Hey, I'm a flea. No, you're not. You can't be. It's impossible. We know this without even looking. So basically, we're generalizing beyond our experience, beyond the experience that we have, using some rules, so, reasoning well, okay, to go beyond experience, and inferring how it is that fleas will never be can never be as big as an elephant. And also with elephants, you could try the argument from the other way. Elephants are made up of different organs, heart, lungs, kidney, all that. They have appendages, trunk, ears, legs. All these things that they're made of require cells, and there's an absolute minimum number of cells required to make those things, which is required for something to be an elephant. So you can't, like taking an elephant trunk, you can't make a trunk with just one cell. You can't make it with 5. You can't make it with 10. You can't make it with just 100 cells. It could be thousands, millions, or hundreds of millions of cells required to make the smallest trunk possible. I don't know the exact number. I just know that it's not. There's a minimum, and the minimum number of cells required to make an elephant is larger than the maximum size that a flea could be due to the respiration mechanism of a flea. So because those limits never cross each other, because there's like a gap between how small an elephant can get and how big a flea could get, we know that all fleas are smaller than all elephants without empirically examining all fleas. You just know it because existence is identity, and there are limits of what can be true in the world. Okay, thank you. I'll move on next video, beyond reason is absolute.